Alright, so we're back again. It's probably the fifth time I've done this video, but we'll get it right. We'll get it right eventually, okay? So today we're looking at two-step equations involving fractions. In this case, I have 3/5 x minus 5 equals 10, okay? Notice I have a fraction here as my coefficient, which is being multiplied to a variable x, okay? Minus a constant, in this case the constant is 5, equals another constant, which is 10, okay? So in order to solve this equation here, okay, I need to identify what is being attached to my x. Well, like I said a minute ago, is 3/5, okay? So we're going to be dealing with 3/5 here in a few moments, but not just yet, okay? First step to solving two-step equations with a fraction, with an integer, whatever, okay, is to get rid of this constant here, okay? So one thing that we can do, and you guys learned this last year, is you've done this by, you separate an equation using what's called like a river, okay? You don't have to draw the river. It's just, you know, if you feel like you need to show that it's separating two sides of the equation, that's okay. You can go ahead and draw that. If not, you don't have to worry about that. It's up to you, okay? So we got to get x by itself. In order to get x by itself, first step we're going to do is we're going to add 5 to both sides. The reason why I'm adding 5 is initially I'm subtracting 5. Well, when I'm solving equations, I got to do everything that's opposite or undo all that stuff, okay? So to undo subtraction, I'm going to add, in this case, add 5. So add 5 to both sides. Draw your line underneath so that way you can show a simplified version of this equation. All right. The 3/5 is automatically going to drop down because it is not. We're not dealing with that just yet. So we're going to bring it to the next step. Okay. So we're going to rewrite that as 3/5 x. Okay. Now we get to this point here. Okay. We got minus 5 plus 5. We got the same number, which is 5, but different signs, a minus and a plus, or a negative and a positive, okay? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take negative 5, and I'm going to add 5 to that. Well, those kind of balance each other out to equal 0. So in order to kind of save space and save your pencils, your pen, whatever you're using for this video, I'm just going to go ahead and mark through it and not write 0. Because this balances out, and it simplifies to nothing. So in this case, 0. So I'm not going to worry about that. Now I got 10 plus 5 on this right side of the river. Okay, 10 plus 5 we know is 15. So our new equation is now 3/5 x equals 15. Okay, I don't know exactly what I can multiply to 3/5 to get 15 off the top of my head. Some of you might be able to figure that out, but not everybody. But we can solve this. Okay. So when we get to this point, we are multiplying a fraction and a variable. Well, I could divide by a fraction, but that kind of, you know, it doesn't really, it's a long way, it's a longer step. So instead, I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal to both sides, the reciprocal of this fraction, okay? So the reciprocal of this fraction is kind of the opposite. So the opposite of 3/5 will be 5/3. So I'm going to take 5/3 and multiply it to both sides of the equation, okay? So let's go ahead and simplify both of these sides. Well, I guess what we should do, go ahead and mark off our list here. So we got x by itself. We added 5 to both sides. And then we just multiply by the reciprocal to both sides as well, okay? So let's deal with this left side first, all right? Multiplying fractions, we multiply across, right? So we got 5 times 3, which is 15. 3 times 5 is also 15. And x is x. Okay, we don't know what x is, that's what we're solving for. Okay, now the right side here, we got 15 times 5/3. I don't really know what that is on top of my head, but I do know how to multiply fractions. We just done that here. Why not do it here? Okay, so let's write 15 as a fraction. So all I'm going to do is just add a 1 underneath the 15. Okay, so we're going to multiply across. 15 times 5 is going to be 75. And 1 times 3 is 3. The reason why I know 15 times 5 is 75, well, let's just do simple math, okay? All right, so we got 5, let's do it the ones place. 5 times 5, which is 25, so I'm gonna bring down that 5 and carry that 2 that's left. And now I'm gonna go to the tens place. So 5 times 1 is gonna be, let's go to the tens place. So 5 times 1 is 5, plus that 2 is gonna be 7, so we get 75. That's where the 75 comes from, okay? Now, we're left with 75 over 3, or in this case, 75 divided by 3, okay? Well, 75 divided by 3 is gonna be 25. So now I'm left with 15 over 15, x equals 25. I need to simplify this here, okay? Because this is just kind of too much. Let's just make it, smaller, okay? So I'm going to take 15 and divide it by 15. Well, if you take a number and divide it by itself, it's going to equal 1. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a 1 and draw it right through 15 over 15, okay? So that way I know it's equivalent to 1x. So x is now equal to 25. And I did not bring down the 1 here because this is just a single x. So it's understood that 1 is in front of this x here. So it's essentially saying 1x is 25. Okay, so we just found a possible answer for x here. Okay, so we simplified to figure out that x is 25. Now the smart thing here, we can say we're done, but we need to check our answer too. Okay, so that way we are more confident that we've done our math correctly. Because if it's not correct, if our equation is not balanced, then we've done something wrong. Okay, so I'm gonna rewrite the equation. 3/5 x minus 5 equals 10. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take 25, which is x in this equation, in this case, and I'm going to replace x in the equation with that 25. Okay, so it's gonna look like this: 3/5 times 25 minus 5 equals 10. Okay, that's a lot right there, right? So let's just take it one step at a time. Let's use our order of operations sense, which is PEMDAS, parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, okay? So when I have a number right next to a parentheses and then another number inside the parentheses, that's telling me I need to multiply. Okay, so I'm gonna multiply 3/5 and 25 together. Okay, well, kind of like going back up here. We had 15 times 5/3. I don't know what that is off the top of my head, so I'm gonna take 3/5 and multiply it by 25 as a fraction, or 25 over 1. So we got 3/5 times 25 over 1. Okay, I'm gonna put a parentheses around that, so that way I know it's grouped together. And then subtract 5 equals 10. Okay, so now let's go ahead and solve this. Let's go ahead and solve this multiplication problem here. Okay, so 3 times 25 is 75. 5 times 1 is 5. Minus 5 equals 10. Now, remember, order of operations. Well, we done with multiply. Now we got to deal with divide. Okay, this fraction is just saying 75 divided by 5. Well, let's go back up here. 15 times 5 was 75. So it would make sense if I work backwards. 75 divided by 5 is going to be 15. So I'm now left with 15 minus 5 equals 10. Okay, and what is 15 minus 5? You know what that is, right? 15 minus 5 is 10. Okay, so 10 does in fact equal 10. So my equation is balanced. So I'm good. So I know that x is in fact 25. This is how you check your answer. Okay. All right, so here is an example of multiplying a variable by a fraction, or even solving a two-step equation with a fraction, okay? Any questions with the video? May want to re-watch it in case you may have missed something. If you're just completely unsure what I'm saying here, ask me, ask maybe somebody else who has watched the video as well. If you're another student not in my class that's watching this video, then ask your teacher regarding any questions you may have, okay? Awesome.